All right, good morning. Welcome. I'm Brian Lepask. Today with me I have Lindsay Gordon, who's our subject matter expert on the full day kindergarten, preschool, transitional kindergarten program. We also have Joshua Potter, the program supervisor here, and we also have Michael Watanabe, our chief of program services with us. If you'd like to follow along with today's presentation, a copy of the item and all of its attachments are on the OPSC website. You can find that under the meetings section. You got to scroll down a little bit, but you can find it there. And then if you have any difficulty locating that, we could probably also drop a link in our chat, and you can click on that. And speaking of, if you're watching via webcast today, you'll have to log into Zoom in order to either participate verbally or to put any questions in the chat. So if you would like to participate, send in questions or bring anything up in our discussion, you will have to go and join via Zoom. And that link should now be on our website. I think it's in the same section. It's in that meetings tab. And again, we can probably provide you a link for that. So we welcome any and everybody who is interested to participate today. Also, the last two meetings that we had are available on our YouTube page, which is OPSCU. And you'll find this meeting archived there as well. We put everything there, so you can go back and look at them later if you'd like to review the information, or if your connection was bad or something like that, you can always go back and look at them. So today we're going to be continuing to discuss newly passed legislation as a result of Assembly Bill 130. It's providing an additional $490 million for full-day kindergarten facilities. As we've been discussing in our last two meetings, we also now have the ability to fund not just full-day kindergarten, but preschool and transitional kindergarten. And so there's a few changes to the program itself, but we're mostly just doing the incorporation of those other two, I guess, grade levels for preschool and transitional kindergarten. That's really the most of what we're trying to accomplish here. During the last couple meetings, and sometimes after, we received input from lots of you stakeholders, and we're very grateful for that. We've really got a lot of really good information that we've been able to incorporate into our regulations and our forms, and even the grant agreement. We're going to be showing those to you today. And additionally, in addition to the new questions that we have, and you'll find the new questions we have today on actually on page 2 of the cover, but we also have, as part of the package, attachment G. G as in girl, which is, it includes all the questions and answers from the last few meetings that were discussed, and then just some of the most pertinent information that we had discussions about and that came out of those meetings. All topics today are open, and your ideas are welcomed. So if there's anything, again, that you'd like to discuss with the group, you can, we will have an opportunity after the presentation to ask those, either verbally, if you're on Zoom, or in the chat. So again, if you want to participate, you're going to have to log into the Zoom. If you do have ideas afterwards, we're receptive to those. Our plan after today's meeting is to present the regulations and the forms and the grant agreement updates to the State Allocation Board at the December 7th meeting. So there's still a little bit of time, but I think this will be the last public discussion we have about these changes. Unless anything changes between now and then, but I think it's that's pretty much what our plan is. We're gonna try to wrap it up today, and then present the changes to the December 7th meeting. So I think that's about it. Thank you for your time again today, and we're looking forward to getting this program going again. There's a lot of opportunity ahead, and we're really excited about the new addition of preschool and transitional kindergarten facilities. We know how much they're needed, and we're hoping that this program can make a difference for quite a few districts out there. So we're pretty excited about it. So with that, I will turn it over to Lindsay Gordon. She's going to walk you through the items and its attachments, and then we'll have some opportunity for some open discussion after that. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'll go ahead and share my screen to show the item for those of you that may not have it. All right. Make sure everyone can see that. Okay, great. So as Brian said, I'm Lindsay Gordon. I'm the project manager for the new program for the California Preschool, Transitional Kindergarten, and Full Day Kindergarten Facilities Grant Program. For those of you that maybe missed the last two meetings, this is due to the Assembly Bill 130 that amended the current Education Code 17375 and allocated $490 million to modify the program eligibility and the funding criteria of the kindergarten program, which added the California Preschool and Transitional Kindergarten Facilities to be eligible for funding. So the last two meetings on September 8th and September 22nd, we discussed proposed criteria for the new program, as well as some amendments to the regulations, forms, and we have taken those and received that stakeholder input and in consideration. And we've also have some more items to discuss today, some questions that we felt needed to be further discussed, and any questions that were asked, as Brian stated, in the last two meetings, either during the meeting or after, are on the attachment G for your reference. So the first question, something we wanted to discuss and we have been discussing since the first meeting, is can the free and reduced price meal, or FRPM percentage, be based on the school site where this project is taking place instead of the entire school district's FRPM? The answer to that is no. Because statute explicitly states that school districts seeking a transitional kindergarten or full day kindergarten facilities grant, it also states that the school district is located in an underserved community with a high population of pupils who are eligible for that FRPM. So we must use that school district as a whole using their FRPM and not the site where the project is taking place. So can a OPSC consider using the FRPM percentage from the 2019-2020 enrollment year? OPSC has decided that for the third funding round, which will take place March of next year, so March 1st through March 30th of 2022, districts will be allowed to choose which FRPM they would like to use. It could be either the 2019-2020, 2020-2021, or the 21-22 FRPM percentage. But for the fourth funding round, which will take place in March of 2023, districts must use that current year's FRPM. So the 2022-2023 enrollment year's FRPM. So we did get some questions on clarifying the reasoning for why OPSC will limit the projects to 4 classrooms per preschool and TK project. So we are limiting these classrooms for these projects due to the ability for all districts to participate in the program in a balanced fashion. So based on the prior program, which was oversubscribed, school districts only received 1 funded project in the filing round. And so we thought that without a limit, and if a school district is doing an early learning center where it's for their whole school district, that could be a very large project, which could take up a large portion of the available funding. So we will only allow for 4 preschool classrooms as a max and 4 TK classrooms as a max on a project site. But note, there is not a limit on the number of full day kindergarten classrooms, as that is specifically based on the project's need and site enrollment. And the districts, or the project sites lacking facilities. So another question that we wanted to address that has had a lot of discussion is if OPSC would consider an alternative to requiring a preschool classroom be constructed at not less than 1,350 square feet. So we have considered this requirement and have had many discussions with CDE. And we have chosen to continue with this recommended requirement of having preschool classrooms meet Title V requirements. And by meeting Title V requirements, they have a minimum of 1,350 square feet, as well as the other requirements for kindergarten classrooms, such as wet, dry areas, storage, and teacher workspace. The 1,350 really should be the goal for kindergarten classrooms, as this would best meet educational needs for kindergartners. So, however, though, we do recognize that some sites may have limitations. So when it comes to retrofit projects, if a district or school site qualifies for an exemption through CDE to have a classroom that is less than 1350 square feet, they may do that, but through OPSC, those classrooms may be no less than 1250 square feet. So with this decision, we have amended the preschool classrooms requirement in our regulations to adequately meet Title V. And as we've discussed previously, the reasoning for this requirement and minimum of 1350 square feet is that it is a prudent use of state funds by meeting kindergarten classroom requirements, so that in the future, if a school district does choose to not offer California preschool program anymore, those classrooms will be adequately used for kindergartners and meet those educational needs of the kindergartners in that classroom. So to our next question, are portable classrooms that house preschool pupils eligible for replacement? So the answer is yes, but only if those portables did not originally meet Title V kindergarten requirements. If they did not meet Title V requirements, then that project could qualify for a new construction project, and meaning that they are lacking the facilities of a Title V facility. So you do need to note, though, that replacement of that classroom could not be with another portable classroom. So to move on to some of our updates on the proposed regulatory amendments. So with the continued feedback and analysis since our September 22nd stakeholder meeting, we identified some program eligibility, funding criteria, and eligible expenditures that needed to be amended due to the new statute. So previously, staff proposed two options for reimbursement projects. And the first option was, we were thinking of doing the notice of occupancy, where new construction and retrofit classrooms could not be occupied on or after July 1st of 2021. Or option two was construction contracts had to be signed on or after July 1st of 2021. Based on some feedback from stakeholders, we reviewed these regulations and are proposing that for retrofit or new construction projects for full day kindergarten projects, we can reimburse back to July 1st of 2018, as long as construction contracts were signed on or after July 1st of 2018. This is due to the fact that the inception of the program was in 2018, so we want to stick with that as well. And additionally, with preschool and TK projects, we will only reimburse till new construction contracts that were signed on or after July 1st of 2021, as this is when these classrooms were added to statute. So to continue with our analysis, for those of you that have been following along with our regulations, any changes and additions to the regulations and forms in this packet have been highlighted so that they are new since the last meeting. And then our discussion topics. We've prepared and proposed some amendments. We've did a few changes to the forms since the last meeting, the Form 7001, 02, and 03, and have now included the grant agreement, which was not included in the last meeting. So some other topics that we would like to discuss and be refined are below, as you can see. So preschool and TK loading capacity. So OPSC staff proposes that each preschool and TK classroom is loaded at 25 pupils. This is for funding purposes, and this is in reflection of the way that the full day kindergarten is loaded as well. So we're stating that the classrooms will be funded in 25 pupil increments, not specifically that they have to be loaded for instruction at 25, but they will be funded at 25 pupil grants. So project plan approvals. CDE will be providing construction plan approvals for all projects, so preschool, TK, and full day kindergarten, to ensure that all classrooms meet Title V requirements. And CDSS, the California Department of Social Services, will not be providing construction plan approvals for any projects. The school districts will be required to certify on that application for funding, which is the SAB 7001, that prior to the occupancy of a classroom, the district of a preschool classroom, that the district has obtained a child care license from CDSS. Now, this is in reference to specifically for preschool classrooms that are a part of a licensed program. And a part of that licensed program compliance, preschool projects must meet Title V requirements, along with some health and safety codes. Something to note with Title 22, if there is a licensed program that is a little different than Title V, is that there must be one toilet per 15 pupils, as well as an outdoor activity space with at least 75 square feet per pupil. So this is a little different from Title V, but it's good to note that if you are running a school district running a licensed program, that they must meet Title II along with Title V for our program. So at the time of project audit, school districts that are providing preschool classrooms must provide evidence of license, or that they have obtained a license exempt status. So some of our next steps, as Brian mentioned, we are hoping to take these proposed regulatory amendments and forms to the State Allocation Board for approval at the December 7th, 2021 meeting. So as we continue through the packet, you have attachment A, which is all of our authority, which has the the new Ed Code section with 17375, Title V, and other references for the program. And as we move forward to page 14 of the packet, it's where the regulations begin. Some of the changes we've made since the last meeting are to appropriately reflect the title of the program, which is the California Preschool, Transitional Kindergarten, and Full Day Kindergarten Facilities Grant Program. So this is known as program throughout the rest of the regulations. And for those of you that may have not seen the regulations in the last two meetings, anything that's been added to the regs since the most recent approval of the SAB has been underlined. So as you move through the regulations, all underlined regulations are new to this. So the highlights are what has changed since or been added since the September 22nd meeting, which is the anticipated revision of the forms for the December 2021 SAB, as well as addition of the title that is appropriate to the new program. So the next change comes in on page 19 of the packet, and section 1860.51, which references the Transitional Kindergarten Program eligibility criteria. This language is just to match the 1860.5 criteria, which states that the funds for transitional kindergarten were made pursuant to Ed Code section 17375 and will be met by submitting that Form 7001. So in 1860.5.2, which is the California State Preschool Program eligibility criteria, we have again added that language to match that funds were made pursuant to Ed Code section 17375, and added some language here, as you can see below, to clarify that the project may be limited to retrofit based on a consultation with the Department of Education, and based on a review of the school site's enrollment pattern, as well as the current facilities at the site. So to reflect the discussion of the preschool programs meeting Title V, we have added the regulations to 1860.5.2. That's preschool classrooms, either retrofitted or new construction, must meet the design requirements for Title V for kindergarten classrooms. So a part of that is new construction classrooms must not be less than 1350 square feet, which includes restrooms, storage, and teacher preparation and workspace areas. So again, for the retrofit classrooms, they must not be less than 13 square feet unless a project meets a CDE exemption, where they can be less than 1350 square feet, but will not be less than 1250 square feet for OPSC funding. So moving on to section 1860.7, which is pages 21 and 22 of the packet. We have added the language to appropriately reflect how reimbursements will work for the program. So again, for full day kindergarten classrooms, we will reimburse back to July 1st of 2018 with construction contracts signed on or after July 1st of 2018. And for the preschool and TK projects, construction contracts must be signed on or after July 1st of 2021 to be eligible for that program. Again, applications that are requesting funding for preschool classrooms may not request more than 4 classrooms. And applications requesting funding for transitional kindergarten classrooms may not request more than 4 classrooms per site for TK. So in 1860.9, which is the new construction apportionment determination, we've added language to clarify that each classroom is eligible to receive funding based on 25 pupils per classroom, so funding in increments of 25. We've added that same language to the retrofit determination as well. And then in page 30 of the packet and section 1860.19 of our regulations, the project savings and unexpended funds, language in here for the eligibility for spending savings, professional development, and the ability to build capacity in the implementation of the programs. Savings must be only spent on the project in which classrooms are being built. So preschool, TK, or full day kindergarten classrooms, those savings may only be spent specifically on what the project entailed. And in 1860.20, which is the program accountability and expenditure audit, so the district shall also provide the copy of the California Department of Social Services, or CDSS, approved child care license, or the proof of a license exempt status if requested from that local auditor at the time of the completion of the project. So moving into our forms, which is page 32 of the packet. We've only made a few changes since the last stakeholder meeting. In the general instructions, this gives more of an instruction on when a school district can file a new application, an application for new construction or retrofit based on the program. So again, if a project was signed on or after July 1st of 2018 for a full day kindergarten project, they can be eligible. Or July 1st, 2021 for a preschool or TK project may be eligible to submit an application for funding. A few other changes in the instructions are just some cleanup here, removing kindergarten classroom, as we will need an explanation of multiple classrooms at the site. And then for the form itself, for those that saw the form in the last stakeholder meeting, we had a section here for the CDSS, the Social Services Approval Letter, that date. But as the California Department of Social Services will not be providing an approval letter, we have removed that information. It is no longer needed. We have added to the certification section for those school districts that are providing a licensed preschool program. They must make sure that they are meeting the health and safety codes and Title 22 requirements prior to the occupancy of those classrooms. unless that program is license exempt and qualifies for license exempt status. So the Form 7002, the Fund Release Authorization Form, which is page 38 of your packet. We have made sure and removed the acronym for the FDK FGP, which was the prior program, and added the appropriate title of California Preschool, Transitional Kindergarten, and Full Day Kindergarten Facilities Grant Program, which will just be referenced as program throughout the instructions. And the highlighted section here is just to show that we had a statement of adding the written approval of the CDSS approval letter, but as again, that's no longer needed, we have removed that instruction. In the form itself for the 7002, we've just cleaned up the language and made it program as we reference the program and not the original acronym, which is the FDK FGP, and removed the requirement for the CDSS approval letter date. Again, so the same thing with our Form 7003, which is the expenditure report, making sure that title matches the rest of our regulations and forms. And there were no changes to the form itself. So attachment F, which is page 42 of the packet, shows the grant agreement, which we have not yet discussed. So with the grant agreement, we have added in the appropriate statute and authority for this this package. Within the grant agreement, we have changed and updated the appropriate titles, as well as to match definitions and other items within the regulations to make sure it all is cohesive with preschool classrooms as well. So a few things we have added here is in the section 2, which is page 46 and page 5 of the grant agreement, which is prior to the release of any funding for the project, OPSC will complete the following steps, as well as the districts and the grantee will complete these steps as well. Again, for licensed preschool programs, the program's classrooms must meet the Health and Safety Code, Division 2, Chapter 3.5, Article 2, and obtain that approved license from the California Department of Social Services, unless it is a license exempt program. Those programs that are licensed for preschool must also meet that Title 22 section, as well as be licensed by the social services, of course, unless license exempt. So as we move through the grant agreement, it all has stayed the same since the previous one. We have added in here about, it's page 52 of your packet, and that the grantee understands that if there are ineligible expenditures, the local auditor will inform CDE as well as OPSC of the amount of those ineligible expenditures, as well as the grantee should report to that local auditor if they were unable to obtain a license or a license exempt status from the California Department of Social Services. And then the local auditor shall then report to OPSC and CDE the ineligible expenditures associated with the preschool portion of a project. So for savings audits, we have just some more clarification as we discussed in the regulations. Savings on a preschool project can only be used for professional development or instructional materials to build capacity for implementation of a preschool program. So that will continue throughout. So savings on a transitional kindergarten project may only be spent on transitional kindergarten professional development or instructional materials, and full day kindergarten as well. So for whatever portion of whatever facilities were a part of a project, those savings may be spent on those specific classrooms and projects. Sorry, there's one more change that we've added to the grant agreement. So page 77 of the packet is that in the record retention, the district must also provide a copy of the approved child care license, which is approved by the California Department of Social Services, or they must provide the license exempt status if requested by that local auditor. So that's the rest of the grant agreement. And again, attachment G has all of the questions and answers from the previous stakeholder meetings. If you would like to go through those or have any questions on that. Outside of that, that's the new changes that we've made. And I think now it's time for questions and answers. I will stop sharing. Any questions that we can answer for anyone?
I think we have a couple in the chat already.
Okay.
Yes, there are a couple in the chat. The first one actually coming from Patty Herrera. Can you please clarify when LEAs need to obtain CDSS certification? CDSS does not govern the K-12 facilities, including TK. And then also, can LEAs be exempted by CDE from the Title 22 requirements for state preschool facilities serving 4-year-olds? So how do your proposed regulations accommodate this authorized exemption? Going into the response for the first question there, when do they need to obtain the CDS certification? That would be by the audit timeframe. So again, understanding that the way the DSS approval and certification would work is that the facilities have to be constructed before they can do an inspection and ensure that they're meeting the requirements. So instead of having that certification required at the initial application phase, or even when the full funding phase is done, or even that first project expenditure reporting, knowing that they'd still have to be completed and then inspected, we are requiring that at the audit phase. So that essentially provides you the additional time frame beyond the project completion of up to 1 year to have that certification held. So hopefully that answers that portion of the question. The other aspect would be how does the proposed regulations accommodate the exemption process? In the certification section of the 7001 application for funding, there are 2 certification boxes to check, meaning identifying that you would be meeting the Title 22 requirements and the Health and Safety Code requirements. There's also added language that says unless they are exempt. Knowing that at the time of the project application for funding, a district may or may not know at that point in time if they are going to seek the license process or license exempt. We would allow them to still certify, being that that language is in there to say unless they are exempt, and that way they can still go either one of those routes. So we would still need that box certified or checked to be certified, indicating that the district is understanding that if they are going the licensed route, they would still need to have those certifications from CDSS, or would then need to be the license exempt program.
Josh, next question is from Kim Van Gundy.
The next question, the 7001, page 4 of 4, requires districts to certify that they meet the Title 22, which is only a requirement for the state preschool licensing program. If an SDC preschool or TK application does not require those regulations, will OPSC have an exemption box or modify the following language, which again is the language that's in there. As the language currently drafted, it requires a certification in either case. I understand that later in the regulations clarify the difference. However, this certification does not. We will look at that language again, ultimately, as I just explained with the last question, knowing that when we are looking at a preschool program, a district may or may not know if they're going a licensed or license exempt route. That certification language does include the disclaimer of unless license exempt. We will review that language. If you have further information on that, as far as the clarification of what the question is or how a proposed language change would be, please feel free to reach out to us, email, we can set up a call, but we will look at that language for further clarification on how it is drafted.
Thanks, Josh. The next question, Ilana is asking if we could provide the funding amounts for rounds 1 and 2. And I think we decided we were going to allocate $250 million for round 1. And then the remainder of the funds for round two. There will be some administrative funds taken out. And then if we, for some reason we're not oversubscribed or we don't allocate the entire 250 million from the first round, then the remainder of the 490 million will be made available for round two. And I think the timing of those rounds, and Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're opening it in March. At least that's the plan right at the moment. Yeah.
Correct.
As long as the regs get approved.
As long as the regs get approved, right? So that's what our goal is to open up the first round in March of 2022.
Correct. Yes, both rounds are actually slotted and projected to be, again, assuming the regs are approved and we're able to get them processed through the Office for Approval. The purpose behind the March is to allow time for the reg approval process and have everything completely finalized. Also, please understand that even though we do have them 1 year apart, this is a pretty large sum of funding. Looking at it's actually 225 million proposed for the first round, or what would actually be the technical third round of program funding. This program is not required to do priorities and funding participation. So keep in mind that even if you were to submit your application in March, we don't have to worry about the May, June priority and funding filing. So the funds coming from the general fund allows us to actually prepare those for release as soon as the project qualifies for that release of funds. So no priorities and funding, regardless of where that application receipt and or SAB approval is had.
Right. Sorry, correction to that. 225 million, not 250. My apologies. Okay, next question from Jeremy. Perhaps this was stated and I missed it, but do the grant amounts take into account the costs of required TK and pre-K playground facilities? A retrofit or new construction may also require site work in order to have sufficient facilities for the program.
So for the applications, whether they are retrofit or new construction, a district can select some of the supplemental grants, which do include site development. That site development grant can be used for any of the site development requirements to meet the program guidelines, as well as any playground equipment, all those eligible concepts. Unlike SFP, where modernization funding did not allow a site development grant, understanding that because of the requirement to have certain playground areas and additional spaces for the transitional kindergarten programs, we have made sure that we retained the site development option for even those retrofit grant applications.
Then Kim is asking a follow-up question if we could get any exemptions in writing. I don't know if they're going to be providing those, right? CDSS exemption. I don't know if maybe they can provide an email, but I don't think they're going to be issuing letters from when we spoke to them. I don't think they plan on doing that.
That is my understanding, is that CDSS would not be providing the letters showing that the exempted status. However, if it is a licensed exempted program, it would fall under the governance as identified previously under the CDE program. And that would be just the Title V requirements. We can double check any aspects with CDE after this meeting and through the week, just to ensure that there would be something that validates that, so we can be sure that that certification is drafted appropriately.
Let's see, M. Belton is asking, where can we find the document Lindsay presented? If you go to the OPSC website and you go to the meetings area, it'll be one of the tabs along the top. And you scroll down just a little bit, you can find it there.
There's also a link in this chat.
Yeah.
Josh just posted it as well. That will take you directly to the meetings, and you can just click on the agenda item.
Okay. I had a couple people asking me to, where do we keep the past items? And I think we are going to, you can email us and we can send you a copy, or I think we're planning on actually posting those to the website. So we'll get those up on the website. And Michael, where were we gonna archive those on the website? Do we know?
They'll be on our meetings page. On our meetings page, just scroll down and you'll see State Allocation Board meeting agendas. And usually within those monthly accordions, we have all our prior stakeholder meetings. It looks like we didn't catch up to September yet, though. So
okay, so yeah,
check later today.
Yeah, the first two were in September, and so if you click on that September accordion menu, it'll open up and give you those. So yeah, check back in a couple days or maybe later today. And if not, you can always email us and we can send you a copy over email too. Let's see. I don't see any other questions in the chat right now. If anybody does have any, please feel free to throw them in there. You can also just unmute and ask verbally. I'll take this as a good sign that everything was explained and everybody's okay with all the results. We've been working really hard on this. The team has spent many, many hours going over everything and preparing this item today, and all the forms and the cover and the grant agreement and everything else. And we're really proud of the result. And I think we're all very optimistic that this is going to be a really successful program and make a really big difference out there. So we're all really excited about it.
As we await for any other potential questions that might drop in there, just wanted to elaborate, especially for anybody who may be new to what this program entails or how it is funded. Lindsay did touch on it a little bit in the presentation of the item. Keep in mind that the funding for these classrooms will be done in increments of 25, so there is no necessity of doing a 17 or a 19 pupil grants. We will fund based on the entirety of a classroom, so it will be in 25 pupil grant increments. Additionally, funding from this program does not require an eligibility basis like the SFP program, where you have to submit your eligibility updates, and based on your enrollment or your capacity, you have an eligibility outcome calculation. This program does not utilize eligibility. You also are not required to have available SFP eligibility in order to apply for funding. It is dependent solely and discretionally on this program and the criteria for eligibility of funding under it.
See, a comment from Alana. She says, it makes sense to allow FRPM for the first round of funding because students were required to fill out a form to qualify for free meals in 2019-2020. Because students now automatically qualify for free and reduced meals, the FRPM numbers may not be accurate in 2022. Yeah, I think that's something that we are aware of. And we're willing to be flexible on that, I think, down the line. That's something that we definitely have made a note to revisit in the near future. And we'll be for sure keeping an eye on that. So thank you, Alana. That's helpful. And yeah, we definitely plan on monitoring that carefully.
Something else to kind of quickly add to that, also keep in mind that the FRPM, we did have the flexibility options in there for that third filing round, or what it would be the first round with the new program. Understanding that there are some differences out there right now, as many districts are experiencing some impacts from COVID and other related events and circumstances. It is a requirement in statute for the FRPM, so we really have no way to veer around having that. But keep in mind that does not necessarily mean that you cannot get funded if you have a low FRPM. It's a priority point ordering basis. And so the higher FRPM just gets a priority in funding based on the statute. So even if you do happen to have a reported lower FRPM, it does not necessarily mean that you cannot get funded. It's all based on how many applications are received, whether it's oversubscribed or not for the current round. And then, of course, that prioritization based off of the points in conjunction with the financial hardship status.
Thanks, Josh. Okay. Thank you, Ken. A question with regards to demographic projections. Some districts are having a growth spurt, and the requirement for the attendance numbers of the last 3 years may not reflect reality. What would be the acceptable demographic report? I think we're just looking at enrollment, right?
We are looking at enrollment. There's kind of a twofold aspect to this process. What we're looking at is for the preschool program specifically, The statute indicates that the needs assessment would be required in order to be submitted along with the application for funding to determine the needs within the district. So a lot of that enrollment and the projection and need is going to be based off of that assessment. When looking at the transitional kindergarten and or what can be implemented into the preschool process, when we have to look at brand new programs or expanding programs, we don't have a hardline enrollment detail in order to determine what that need is. So the projection using the 3-year average for those grade levels is determined based on factual numbers. If you're looking at your factual first grade, second grade, third grade enrollment, those are essentially grades that the pupils in those grade levels the preceding years prior would have been in that grade level of that transitional kindergarten. So it's a concept in order to allow those realistic numbers to kind of basically do a backwards calculation methodology to determine how many would have been there in order to establish that need. And then again, keep in mind that for the preschool and transitional kindergarten, there is a limit of no more than 4 classrooms for each of those specific program funding requirements for each application.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay, going to allow a few more minutes for additional questions. Like I said, feel free to drop them in the chat or just kind of speak up. Again, if you want to go view this, meeting or any of the last 2 meetings are available on our YouTube page. And the plan is to get these to the SAB for approval in December. And then if there's anything we can help you with for your specific project, please reach out to us. We'd be happy to have a conversation with you or go over those details for your individual projects on the side. We're hoping that this was helpful for everybody and kind of frames the program. Like I said, we're really excited about it. So has a bright future, and maybe see how everything goes. But I think it's going to be very popular.
I know Brian has already kind of extended the opportunity. Anybody who has questions regarding the program or the proposed regulations or this packet, or maybe you have a certain potential project within your district and you'd like to kind of discuss with us how that may fit or what kind of implications may be involved, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Obviously, there are different circumstances going on from district to district, whether you have a population shift or you've got people coming into the area, going out of the area. We're more than happy to schedule, either a Microsoft Office Teams meeting, a Zoom meeting call, even over the phone to discuss those specifics and maybe kind of help you align with what would go into the regs and know what funding opportunities you may have. So please do not hesitate to reach out if you have questions, or like I said, just want to discuss what kind of direction the district may be thinking about going for one of these projects that may qualify for funding.
Thank you, Josh. Yeah, we couldn't have been as successful as we were with this without your help. We appreciate it very much. Our partnership is valued, and we really appreciate everybody's time and all the input that you provided, your patience with us, and I just can't express how appreciative we are. It's been a really great start to this new program, and really appreciate all of your help. So I'm not seeing any other questions. I think that's probably going to wrap it up. I'll give it maybe another minute. We'll stick around just in case anybody does have questions. Oh, one just popped in here. Okay. Let's see. Jamie says, I think the issue is that averaging historic enrollments is not always a reflection of what enrollments will be moving forward. For example, if a small district has a new affordable housing development that will add a significant number of new students in the next couple of years, that won't be accounted for looking backwards. Was an enrollment projection calculator considered similar to the one used for new construction that would have allowed for the inclusion of new dwelling units? I can reach out separately to the team. Yeah, I don't think we had considered that. Previously, we were going to be looking at the information, especially for TK and full day kindergarten, kind of how it's rolling out to those grade levels. That might be something to consider for preschool. We don't currently have that incorporated, but that's a good thought. And yeah, why don't you kind of reach out to us, Jamie, and we can discuss that. That would be great. Yeah, and the projections not being considered specifically for FDK because it's specific to existing enrollment for that program.
And just to also follow up, it's funding's meant for the current need of a kindergarten, not future need. It's current need now. That's why.
Thank you. All right, seeing no more questions. Again, thank you very much. Everybody have a great week. And we'll see you again sometime soon.